Hi, my name is Will Morse, and I am currently a third form history teacher at South Kent High School in South Kent, Connecticut. Previously, before that, I worked on my master's degree at McDaniel College while teaching and coaching, and also previously taught at State College Area High School for 1 year after graduating from Colgate University. Being an educator has always been a goal of mine, and I'm very curious to find ways to improve my education. And this summer I've been engaged in a program in which has really made me think about and question what are the ways in which children, especially young boys, learn, what motivates them, what doesn't motivate them, what is working and what is not. And I've come to some very interesting conclusions. I'm going to discuss something today called the chaos theory of teaching. This is a theory that I began thinking about after doing summer research, looking at latest scientific material, and questioning my own learning throughout my undergraduate degree and master's program. The results are very startling and non-conventional. What I'd like to begin talking about is what is the definition of a good working classroom today? If you ask people this question, the majority will say one that is structured, one that has order, one that provides discipline to the students, incentives for good grades, maybe good behavior, and it's a continuous classroom, one that builds upon previous lectures moving forward. We have to ask ourselves, why are classrooms structured in this way? Well, the reality is this is the way in which most of us learned in our own educational experiences. But when we really think about this, we need to ask ourselves, does this really work? The problem is not a lot of people are asking this question, does it work? Let's think about boys in particular and how they are educated and how they are wired. Boys by nature have very low attention spans, especially in young ages. When we begin school and look at young children, boys in particular are particularly interested in movement activities, building, working with their hands, being creative in a lot of the things they do. The reality is in the school system these days, what we see is recess being limited, physical activity being limited, and boys being asked to be more structured and more disciplined in the activities they do. The result of this is it ends up actually frustrating a lot of these young boys and makes them feel very non-capable and overall just frustrated with the learning experience. Additionally, we see that girls are much more socially developed and mature at a younger age than boys. So as their peers progress, being girls, boys will become more frustrated in their lack of ability to improve or pick up concepts. We need to really think about these things and ask ourselves, what are we doing for young boys? Is this really working? Is it the best? Additionally, young boys and young children in particular always have a fear of failure. We need to teach these young kids that failure is not the end result, but merely a process in terms of getting to the end goal. That is a necessary component. Without failure, you don't necessarily have success. I've seen this in my own life as well as lives of others in my family, my friends, my coworkers, my players, and my students. Not only do we see a fear of failure in young boys, we also see peer pressure to not fail. No one wants to not be as good as the other boys in their class. It's a competitive nature. It's a very direct way that boys think and process things. Nobody wants to look bad in front of their peers or particularly other young boys. So when we step back and ask ourselves, is this structured, continuous, ordered, and highly disciplined classroom the most effective way to educate young men? The answer is clear. It's not. This is where the chaos theory comes in. We need to ask ourselves as teachers, it's okay from time to time to let these young men breathe and do things on their own. It may be a scary concept, but when we look at the results, it's very startling. What works? It's been scientifically proven that intrinsic motivation is the big cure-all for boys in particular learning in their educational systems. What does this mean? This was broken down into 3 parts. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. All we have to do is look at simple studies that suggest that incentivizing different problems versus people who learn intrinsically or have a desire to get better, the intrinsic motivators always outperform those even when not given incentives. The incentivized people constantly fall behind in their performance. Now, this is a concept that I find very fascinating because the majority of our school systems and the majority of our businesses are founded based upon incentives and incentives used to motivate people to succeed. What we're finding in business and in schools is that this just simply doesn't work. So, as stated, we need to think back on how we can get intrinsic motivation built among young men in society today, particularly in our school system. This particularly deals with how we motivate and how we structure our classrooms. My thing is chaos. Let there be chaos. Let boys be boys. Let them use your brains. Let them develop projects. Let them come up with their own ideas. Let them run the class. Let them be the drivers of how you teach and what you do. It's been proven that the row system, rewards only work environment, simply does not work. Business executives that are not pushing their people to get things done other than on incentivizing and deadlines are not as successful. We only need to look at companies who allow their people to have 20-30% of their time for freedom, creative expression. Those are the companies that are finding success today. In addition, we see that those reward systems do not work. When people, and particularly young boys, are left free to work on their own, they are highly motivated and they find autonomous value in their work. What do I mean by that? These young boys have a desire to improve, a desire to want to learn. It's intrinsic. Those people are the ones that are successful. Think about Encarta that Microsoft launched as an encyclopedia. With deadlines, incentives, professionals, managers, what is the #1 online encyclopedia today? Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a non-paid online encyclopedia simply submitted by curious people that have a desire to learn. They are highly outperforming with no incentives, no reward, no pay. These are the things we need to look at. What we can look at and see is that overall, we need to let boys breathe a little bit in the classroom. Let there be chaos. Let them structure some of their own things. Let them be boys. My idea is give it back to them. Suggest what they want to learn. Give them projects that fit their own curiosity, not projects that you designate as fun. Don't use methodologies that has been proven to not work. And first and foremost, always remember what it was like to sit in their shoes and sit through lecture after lecture after PowerPoint after PowerPoint. As an adult, I get bored by this, so certainly young men in the educational system will be. Let the boys breathe. Let there be chaos. Limit the structure. Limit the rewards and incentivizing. Let them create their own lessons. Let them create their own environment. Guide them along. Let them fail. Through these failures, they'll find success. And when we do it in an environment in which they are not persecuted for their failures, they will ultimately go on to succeed. Let chaos work in our schools because it has been proven to work in business. Thank you.